33, 51, 1038. Be Deerwood over 35 with 783 David Lincoln.
Eagan police officer Dan McCarty has been with the city for 6 years, and before that he was a soldier with the Army National Guard.
That led me down a path eventually to wanting to become a police officer. A lot of the guys I served with were active police officers and just part-time soldiers with the National Guard.
Officer McCarty has helped book a lot of criminals in his 6 years as an officer, but it's his off-duty paperwork that has recently gotten a lot of attention.
Meshed everything in my experience together between medical and military and law enforcement. I kind of had a unique perspective on it, so I decided, if I have a story in my head, can I try to get it down onto paper? Can I write this, and is it something people are going to want to read?
McCarty recently published his first novel, A Soldier Reborn. It's a story about a soldier who becomes a detective, but not before undergoing a brain transplant. No, McCarty himself has not been through experimental surgery, but his experiences in the Army and in law enforcement helped him to craft the story.
All the techniques that are used, the thought process that's used, that's all accurate to how things are done. It's not CSI, it's not Hollywood. For people that don't have experience in law enforcement or military, have really recognized it and said, this is something you can tell that this author has been through this stuff because it's written in that voice and you feel like you're there.
His experiences outside of his career have also played a factor in his writing. He says he's a family-first guy, so it was a challenge to find time to write.
As soon as the boys went to bed, which was about 8 o'clock at night, I'd sneak off to the office and start writing the book. And obviously my wife's had to put up with a ton because of this book. I mean, she lost her husband for 3 months to me writing the book, and as soon as the kids were going to bed, I was kind of off in my own little world. So, but she's been hugely supportive.
But before anyone reads McCarty's story, there's a dedication at the front of the book that tells a story in its own way. During the time the book was being published, McCarty was the responding officer to an infant death at a local daycare. He dedicated his book in little Dane's memory.
It was a very difficult situation for me being a young father. For this one, it really hit home for me. That child, even though it's only been 3.5 months, was only 3.5 months old, has touched so many people, but then because they're not, didn't live that full life, didn't get to know everybody, their story doesn't really get told. So I thought it was a perfect chance for me to dedicate the book.
McCarty plans on writing more stories. Specifically, he plans on completing the trilogy that he started with A Soldier Reborn. If he can find time, that is, because in a few months, he and his wife Bria will be completing a different kind of trilogy when they welcome son number 3.
I'll have to reallocate some of my off time, to writing the book, however I can find it. But I'm definitely, like I said, I'm always a family-first guy, but I also have to find time to write the second book, which we're all aware of. So
the motivation to write is there, thanks to the support of his friends, co-workers, and his family, and not to mention the demands of his growing fan base.
The biggest complaint I've received by far so far is that people have to wait, a certain amount of time until the second book comes out.